Hi everyone. So this is first with Jai Barhati. So I'm super happy to have this chat with her. So I've been talking with her for quite a while. Actually, we've been chatting for a few months already. But I thought we would share my discussions with her because I always enjoy having a chat with her so much, and she has so much insight to share. So for those who don't know Jai, she was born in Hyderabad. Sorry, I cannot pronounce that. Can you pronounce
That's
it?
correct. You're right. Yeah,
Hyderabad.
that was good.
Okay,
Hyderabad.
good.
Yeah.
Hyderabad in India. And yeah, she always felt a deep sense of freedom that she decided to express on her two wheels, exploring the world and meeting people along the way. So Jai is architect from training and education, but she also realized that making a living wasn't sufficient and she wanted to lead a purposeful life. So she founded MOWO for Moving Women, which is a social enterprise empowering women through mobility, which is quite an important topic to us, as you know. So she provides women with motorcycle training as well as self-confidence building workshops so that they can themselves feel safe to roam freely and take control of their own destiny. So yeah, she'll tell us a bit more about that. So let's kickstart this interview. First, I'd like to know, when did you learn to ride a bike and why? Because in Southeast Asia, a lot of women ride small bikes for, commuting and so on, but it's very different from riding a big bike and deciding to travel with a bike, and especially across India and Asia. So how did it start?
Hello, hi, and yeah, like you said, it's nice that we've been talking to each other since so many months, and finally we get to do a interview like this. This is good. So I just learned to ride a two-wheeler as much before I went to the college. So in school time itself, I learned my first two-wheeler, and during the college days, I mean the love for two-wheeler grew, and we would have our hands on our friends' motorcycles, and just go for 20-kilometer, 50-kilometer ride, short rides just for fun. And soon we got into the profession, started working, and I was working in a different place, not in Hyderabad. I started working in Bangalore. So weekends were free. Then we would take our friends' bikes and just go out and explore. So I always felt riding a motorcycle was fun, definitely, and I knew that I can ride. There is nothing. I mean, there's nothing like which is stopping me from riding a scooter and riding a motorcycle. When I am able to ride, why not ride motorcycles? So it was like that. And 2013, we got home a new Royal Enfield Desert Storm. Desert Storm was newly launched. And from then on, there was no looking back. So I got in touch with this Bikerni, the All Women Association here in India, All Women Motorcycles Association. So we have each city chapter. So we started the Hyderabad city chapter. And the Sisterhood calling came in, and we started riding. And then I rode to the world's highest motorable road here in India, then all the way to Mekong and US, and the journey continues. Sorry, I can't hear you.
So yeah, you actually did a lot of road trips, both solo road trips in the US to raise some funds for your organizations, but also you led a group of women across Southeast Asia. So among all those road trips that you've made, what's your best memory?
Oh my God, this is a very difficult question, but I think I will have best memories from each of my road trips, but most recent being the US trip. We just stopped somewhere for a quick pit stop to have some lunch or grab a meal, something like that. And then there's another lady who was driving a big SUV. She came in, she parked, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh, are you riding this?" I said, "Yeah, I'm riding this. I'm going across US 11,000 miles." She was astonished. And then she said she was a mother of two girls, two young girls. And she said, "You know what? I used to love motorcycles, but my dad had motorcycles, but I never thought that I could just take my motorcycle and go across my country." And looking at you, I just felt like, what's stopping me? So, probably soon I'll just take my motorcycles and head out with my girls. So, I really felt so good. That was, one of the best memories from the US trip, of course.
So really inspiring other women to go on their bike and explore the world
Yeah.
themselves, basically. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us a bit more about that trip that you led with a group of women across Southeast Asia, and what drove you? Because I know you've been in the motorcycle field for quite a while, and you're riding with guys as well. So why women? Why did you take a group of women across Southeast Asia? And what's the difference for you between riding with guys or riding with girls?
Yeah. So I actually do ride with a lot of my male biker friends as well. We have a great set of motorcyclists here in Hyderabad and across the country as well. We do have a lot of friends from our male community as well. But what I realized is, like you mentioned earlier, in Southeast Asia, especially in India, women riding motorcycles, I can now say that was a taboo earlier, but now in the past decade, they have seen enough of us, and now they know that women do ride. But still, a lot of women think that, oh, we may know how to ride, but we don't want to ride. What will people think? That socio-cultural barrier is still there. So they need somebody to just tell them. It's not that I'm teaching them to ride. All these women motorcyclists whom I have been associated with, be it in the Bikini or any other women where we went for some motorcycle trips, they all know how to ride. They would have probably learned just like me in school or college. But the only difference between them and me was I could get on to the opportunity and say that if I know how to ride a motorcycle, I can go to any corner of India, or I can go to Southeast Asia, or I can go to US. But that same feeling might not be there, or that same confidence is not there for many women. And they just need somebody to handhold and tell them that if you can ride, you can ride anywhere. Nothing would stop you. What's stopping is you yourself. And whenever I realize that I'm able to encourage somebody to do the best of themselves, I am not living their life, they're living their life. I'm only enabling them to live it in a better way. So when I started to notice that, I realized that if I just give that little encouragement to any women in the first ride, or for first couple of rides, then they emerge as a great motorcyclists themselves. They don't need me anymore. It's just usually to do the hand holding. So when we have that little power of hand holding, why shouldn't we do? Let there be more women who can ride. It should just not be you and me. So that's
Okay,
why
yeah,
I like
that
taking
makes sense.
all other girls on trips. And the reason why it might be a girls only trip initially would be, of course, now most of our bikers do come in mixed group rides and all those things. But for women, especially in Southeast Asia, I think it becomes very difficult to ride, to begin with, to ride directly with men. Not everybody might come from a place I am coming. I have two brothers, and my father has already almost bought all the three of us like a same child. There was never a discrimination between a girl child and a boy child. So I was fortunate enough, but might not be the same with so many other people. So their families might object. How can you go with a bunch of boys? Or if the women are married, they would say that their husbands might have a problem saying that how can you just go with some random stranger bikers? So the minute we say that it's a women only biking group, all these barriers are completely pushed away. I mean, those barriers never exist. They just say, I really want to ride a bike. Bunch of girls are going. Why can't I go? So, their families also feel more supportive. Okay, she's going with her girl gang, so why not? So it just becomes much easier. So, that's one
I
reason.
like this
That's
term, the girl. I like this term, the girl gang, because if you use the word
yeah,
gang, that's pretty
yeah,
negative. Like that's not really like
yeah,
reassuring. But then you say a girls gang, and suddenly it looks cool, and it looks
yeah.
safe. And yeah, so basically, to sum up, like the drive in really engaging women in those rides is to make it more accessible for them in a way, and also having a stronger impact because it's not something that they would do that easily with other groups. Like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's fair. And So you, on the personal side, you said that you were raised like with two brothers and your father was quite supportive and raised you in the same manner. Obviously, that's not the case for all women. And now you are 30, 37, if I'm not mistaken.
8. So
38, right?
one
It's
year
the same,
passed now.
same. And so you're not married, and in India in particular, that's kind of atypical, right? You're not really meeting the usual, Indian woman expectations of getting married after a certain age and blah blah blah. So, can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what are the challenges that you are facing, and how do you overcome them? Because obviously you're a super happy woman who is enjoying herself. So how do you manage those expectations and challenges?
Yeah, this is a very fair question, I think. Actually, you're right. It is. Yeah, the minute you cross your 20s or you finish your college and you start working, the immediate next question would be, when are you getting married? That would be there. I have passed through all those stages as well. I was seeing someone, things didn't work out, so maybe at one point I just thought that, okay, I just don't have to focus on getting married. I can live my life. I'll get married whenever I want, or if I found someone suitable, why not? Yes, definitely. But that is not a point which would bind me saying that if I'm not married, then I'm not living my life. I never counted my life in the stages of relationships. So for me, all it matters is, am I living my life to the full potential, and uh, you know truly enjoying what my life is without causing any harm to anybody around me. So as long as I do that, I am good. I don't have to bother about anything else. So whatever steps I take, I should just be responsible. Like whenever we go out on these road trips, I ensure that we follow safety to the core, and we do not end up doing things which might leave a negative remark. Like you said, the minute you say motorcycle gang, it's a very, in some places people think that it gives a very negative annotation. But when you're doing it more responsibly, the state I came from gave a women achievement award just because I'm riding motorcycles. So when we do something very nice and very affirmative, we are leaving that kind of a thought process in the society as well. So a decade ago, when I started riding motorcycles, I did not have any problem. People did not question me that instead of getting married, why are you roaming around on motorcycles? Fortunately, I did not. But like you said, it's not the case with everyone. There might be so many people, so many girls who come to ride with us actually initially come without informing at their homes. They just say that we are going out and they would come with us. Then we would tell them that, no, you need to go back and tell them that you are coming on a motorcycle trip. So initially it might be difficult. After 2-3 rides, they slowly grab that courage, and when they know that they're riding safely with a group and they're doing something good, people also change their perception. So I did have those moments where some people would, some relatives or friends would say that, oh my god, when are you getting married? So that became just a part of my life. It's not
Yeah.
my entire life.
So basically, what
And
you're
I
saying
think
is that,
most of the
yeah.
people,
Now, I was saying
also
basically
most of the
what you're
people, I
saying
think
is, sorry, it's good.
okay, I'll continue,
We are a
I'll just
little
finish.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, I will. So, most of the people, I think they count more of my travels and my motorcycle trips than the other days of my personal life. So, everybody, the first question when they talk to me would be, are you not traveling? Especially in COVID period, everybody would call me and ask, are you doing well? Not not whether you have the virus or something, but what they mean is, you're just stuck at one place. Are you fine? Because you're so used to travel so much and being on your motorcycle. How is sitting at home treating you? They were more bothered on those parts. So it's all the perceptions what we leave behind.
Yeah, fair enough. So basically, what you're saying is that if you have a purpose in life, and
Yeah.
you live a meaningful life and ride a bike, then you don't need a husband.
Yeah,
Basically.
no. I definitely need a husband.
But yeah, so I
uh,
understand that
uh,
it kind of compensate
yeah.
those social pressure, because you have you you have something else to talk about as
It's
well.
more
Like,
meaningful.
yeah,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
meaningful.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to women who feel a strong drive in riding a motorcycle, but they don't dare because they think that they are not capable, or because they think that their family would not allow, or because they would think that they would be perceived negatively? You know, it can be emotional or real constraints, but what advice would you give them?
So I think now is a really good time to for many women to unleash their true potentials and do everything they are passionate about. Now, first and foremost, identify the difference between your passion and your hobby. Are you riding a motorcycle just for hobby, or are you riding a motorcycle for passion? For you and I, your father was riding a motorcycle. You grew up looking at it, so you're more passionate about riding a motorcycle. For me, as a child, I grew up on two wheels and I fell in love with it. I traveled, so I'm very passionate. But for some, it's definitely not wrong. But for some, they just want to, probably I see so many girls riding a motorcycle, or maybe my boyfriend says that I should ride a motorcycle, my husband says that I should ride along with him. So some people just ride for some part, like they just want to go for one trip and come back. So that might just be a hobby. There is nothing wrong in riding a motorcycle as a hobby. But the day you know the difference between hobby and passion, you'll be able to convince anybody. I mean, if you're very passionate about motorcycles, family and all, yes, there are problems, but you will find a way to convince them. But if it is as a hobby, you won't find that zeal within you to convince the opposite person. When you're passionate, it comes almost naturally. And now we have so many videos on so many women who are traveling across the world on motorcycles. So when you sit at home and if you think that your parents are not happy with your idea of riding a motorcycle, even if you feel that you can't even strike a conversation, just turn on the TV or your computer and keep watching those videos where women are riding across the world and still doing good. See, end of the day, when the family is stopping you, it is only out of their concern for safety, nothing beyond it. It's not that they don't want you to ride. It's just that they're worried about you or have a lot of concern. So to break that, you just showcase where the women are doing so many things and slowly talk about the women in your own cities doing these kind of things. And definitely they will allow you to ride one day. That would not be a problem. And whenever you take out your motorcycle and go out first, pay utmost importance to the safety. And when you come back home, come back happy. When they see that happiness in you, nobody would stop. They would know that whenever she's going out with on motorcycles, she is happy, so why stop her? So
Yeah,
it
those are very
all
good.
depends
Those
on
are
that.
really,
Yeah.
really good advices. It's true. Sometimes we make our own assumptions and we fear the reaction of our families or whatever. And but this is all in our head. And
Yes. Yes.
sometimes we make assumptions that they don't want. But sometimes, as you say, it's just because they're afraid of your safety, or they don't realize how passionate you are about it. So yeah, come back with a
Hmm.
smile, meet fellow lady riders who can encourage
Yeah.
you, and yeah, ride safe. And that's a good way of convincing anyone to not only let you
Hmm.
ride, but to ride with you as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fair point. So now tell us a bit more. So about a year ago, so I think you celebrated just a few months back the 1 year of Movo, so Moving Woman, your
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
enterprise. Um,
Yeah.
so can you tell us a little bit why you created that, this organization? First, what was your initial drive? And then obviously it evolved and it grew. And now there are also a few latest development that you are also diversifying a little bit. So tell us a bit about more.
Yeah. So, like I said, or probably like you were asking, many people think that, oh my God, we also want to write, but something stops them. And the first thing what stops them would be, one valid reason would be, though they know how they know that they might like riding a motorcycle, there is, or any two-wheeler, there is nobody who can teach them, especially in families where there are no male siblings. They think that who would teach us. And in India, we do not have exclusive women motor driving centers. Like we do have car four-wheeler training centers, but when it comes to lower income groups where they cannot afford a four-wheeler, all they can afford is a two-wheeler. But who's there to teach them?
Sorry, so you mean in India you've got driving center for cars which are exclusively for
Yeah,
women?
yeah, we do
Okay,
have.
that's
At
interesting.
least
But
the
they
sessions.
are
It's
taught
not
by
like,
women, or they are taught by women, or they
no,
are
no.
taught by
They
men?
are taught by some places they are taught by men, and some places they are taught by women. Both.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that we have an exclusive training center which is only for women, but they might have women only groups, like a
Ah,
male
okay.
might
So
teach or a
women
woman
only
might teach
sessions. Okay.
sessions. Yeah, but not
Okay.
where women teach. But there are places where women trainers are there, but very few, handful of people, that's all. So,
Okay.
and especially when it comes to two-wheeler, except for few parts, again, it's a very negligible number of women instructors. So when I was riding so much, and every time we finish a ride, people would come and ask, we just want to ride like you. Even if I can't go on a motorcycle all the way to Vietnam, at least in my own neighborhood, I want to ride on my little scooter, but there's nobody to teach me. I'm so scared. What if I fall? And more than anything, more than the technicality, fear is something which is there in every woman who think that we just cannot ride because we are scared we might fall. So I know it is all about fear. Riding a two-wheeler is very easy. I mean, when we started Movo in our first batch, when I announced that we are going to teach and the local neighborhood women can sign up for the classes, you won't believe there was a 58-year-old woman who came and who said it was my life dream to ride a two-wheeler, and nobody's teaching me. Even now I have my grandson, and my grandson says, if you want, I'll give you a driver, go in the car wherever you want. Why do you want to learn a two-wheeler? But the lady says, it is just my dream. I just want to be able to ride a two-wheeler. So ultimately we taught her. I promised her that, you might feel a bit, uh, you know, anxious that everybody is learning fast. I am not getting, don't even worry. Don't let that thought come to your mind. If everybody takes 5 days, you might take 10 days, because you need to get out of that fear. As an old person, you will have that mental block. So but one day you will learn, and we will not give up on you. You will definitely learn. And in 10 days she knew how to ride a two-wheeler. And you should look at her face, the smile she has, the inner happiness she had. And everybody who saw her learning, immediately there were 50 other women from the area who came back and said that, we want to join, we want to learn. So it's really empowering to see women ride any two-wheeler, not just motorcycle. So, but there are no centers. People like you and I, there are so many people who look up to us, but how many people can we go back and impact in our own personal capacity? I might, in school, I used to teach all my friends how to ride a two-wheeler because I was the first one who learned. But I can't just focus in an area I was born in, or within my own friend circle. There might be so many people who need people like us to teach them. So I thought, it's good to start an institution, and that's when we started Movo. And like you said, yeah, February 2019 we celebrated the first year anniversary, where by then we trained, including the pilot and all other batches, we trained about 1,000 women how to ride two-wheelers. And of
So,
course with
so you
COVID
train,
there
so
has
you train
been,
about, so you train about 1,000 women from February 2019 to February 2020, right? The 1 year
no,
anniversary.
February 2018 to February 2019.
Nah, 2019. So
Yeah.
February 2020, it was your 2 years anniversary.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years. Actually, I mean, we incorporated the company in 19, but we were working on it much before that. So, official incorporation was 1 year.
Yeah, okay.
So in that we taught 1,000 people, and because of COVID, we have to diversify a bit. And now we are looking at, getting onto women-only fleet services as well, because, there'll be a lot of challenges to run a foundation, and to sustain, we need to do, diversified options, because we don't want to give up on what we started. So it's important to diversify.
So that's the big development basically is so Movo
Yeah,
was run like as a social enterprise, and you were able to train those women mainly
yeah,
through
yeah,
grants and funds, and
yeah.
now the big shift is to actually make it more sustainable by
Enjoyable.
being less reliant on donations and being able to support those women in monetizing their writing skills and
Yes.
offer job and livelihood opportunities through those women on two wheels, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
for example, you started. So last year you also struck a partnership with Uber, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So that was about Uber Eats because in India there are very few women who work in the women driver force. It can be even cars. They're very less. And the biggest fact is the socio-cultural barrier. They always have this feeling that, you know, how can we be drivers? What will others think? You know, all those things. So suddenly become a bike taxi rider might be very difficult to begin with. So we joined hands with Uber Eats, where our women, whomever we taught, at that point of time, could go and join Uber Eats and, you know, monetize their new riding skill. So anybody who's looking for a part-time job or a full-time job can just become a Uber Eats partner and deliver some food, because delivering food becomes easy. You are not responsible for another rider sitting behind you. So that's a slow step. That was like first step of our employment mode. And then later on we wanted to venture into other verticals as well, but Uber Eats was for that, where, you know, it becomes easier. And Uber also came up with many solutions which were very friendly for women to pick up these kind of jobs. They had a separate call center number. Generally, a Uber driver, if you see, if they have any problem, it just goes to an automatic customer care. You don't know whom you're speaking to. But for women, they would give a separate number, just because, you know, they wanted to encourage these women to take up these kind of jobs. So it is important to collaborate with people who have gender equality at their workplace. So, you know, in the process of collaboration itself, I ended up speaking to so many women team leads. I hardly spoke to one guy, rest all were women. So that shows how much gender equality is considered at Uber. I mean, it was not shown because I was talking; it was just there in their system. So that's actually very encouraging.
Okay, so that was a good stepping stone, and now you're going to develop your own offering and giving some livelihood opportunities to those women. Um,
Yeah.
What can we wish you? What can we wish you?
You should wish not just us, but everybody, that the world sees the potential of women in mobility, and there should be many more Jays and Allisons like just like you and me. There should. So we should. Let's all pledge. I keep saying this, that let's all pledge to enable more women in mobility wherever we are, whatever we are doing. Just keep a little focus on why there are not many women riding around you. All it needs is a push and an encouragement. Talk to them, tell them that they can just take out their two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, or, you know, just explore on wheels. You know, that will bring in a lot of change.
Thank you for those amazing last words. Go on your two wheels and bring a lot of change. I like that. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Jai. It was again a real pleasure chatting with you as always. And yeah, we'll definitely have another session later, and we'll invite other women to join to learn a bit more about our trip, our upcoming trip in India for women. So a bit more to come onto that anyway. But thanks so much, Jai, again for your time. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with you again. Take care.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. Take care. Bye.